Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews Live, where I am your host, John Delray. Today, chatting about day 7 of Packers training camp. And, I said the other day that it was starting to cook. Temperatures were beginning to rise. It is that time of year, and I was young, I was ignorant. This is what warm feels like. Not so much the other day. So today, a very, very warm one. A little bit short of a practice one, about an hour and 40 minutes. But the big news of the day today is the offense finally began to make some progress. There was a number of touchdowns in red zone today. It was a very heavy red zone work day for the Packers as well. Still a little bit more running in the game plan than we saw those first couple days as well. But the offense on the whole finally began to gel. It wasn't quite the turnover bonanza that we have seen in some of the earlier practices, so certainly a good sign. Defense, for what it's worth, didn't appear as aggressive today, but also just didn't make the plays along with it. So the Packers did make a number of transactions to get the day started. Let's take you there first. First of all, not really a transaction, nope, but it did happen right before practice. Along with these transactions, Kadeem Telford, he broke a little kid's bike. No, I did not see that myself, but Telford is the second biggest dude on the team behind Caleb Jones. Apparently, he was riding some little kid's bike and broke it. So quite unfortunate. But as for the injuries, today returning to practice was the third-round rookie Marshawn Lloyd, actually getting in some of his first reps of the year. Robert Rochelle, Zane Anderson, both returning as well. Still out with their injuries, though, were Deslin Alexander and Keyshawn Banks, the defensive ends, as well as Tucker Kraft, still on the PUP with his pec injury. Officially returning from the physically unable to perform list, though, was Keaton Oladapo. Yeah, my heart would have pitter-patter when I saw that news, but he returned to practice today. Then in terms of actual transactions that occurred, the Packers wound up making 3 transactions today. Peter Bowden, I speculated the other day when he was let go that he would be brought back. Apparently, he just stayed in logical the whole time because, indeed, he was officially brought back this morning. In turn, they released the third kicker on the roster, James Turner. So now we are just down to 2 kickers in the form of Joseph and Carlson. They also signed a cornerback, Don Callis, and let go of another corner, Zion Gilbert. So some bottom of the roster churning here. They also signed L.J. Davis, another corner, while letting go Henry Pearson, the fullback tight end special teamer. Little surprised. I haven't seen Pearson a lot through the first 7 days of camp. Little surprised he was let go this early. Keep in mind, Henry Pearson at the end of last year was making some real pushes to actually make the 53. There was some speculation this offseason that if the Packers are going to keep a dedicated H-back, it was going to have to be Pearson. He was the only real one now that Jaguaro's gone. Apparently, the Packers aren't going to do that as Henry Pearson was let go. So there you go. Bowden, Callis, Davis in, Turner, Gilbert, and Pearson out. So with that, let's get to the players of the day and try again another day. Player of the day, I really wanted to put just Romeo Doubs, but the truth is, most of the wide receivers had a really strong day today. Doubs in one-on-ones got the best of Jair Alexander repeatedly, to even where the point was Jair at the end of the drill was begging for another rep. Doubs got the best of him repeatedly. Christian Watson had a very nice play today. Grant Dubose, this is the 4th day in a row that Dubose has made a nice play as he made a toe-touching drag in the back corner of the end zone. Julian Hicks had some good stuff, so really just a very good collective effort from the wide receivers today. Also, feels different, but Sean Clifford had himself a nice day today. Ultimately, was it perfect? No, that's why I only put kinda. But the truth is, once it got to the red zone drill where the twos took over, Clifford threw 2 touchdowns, should have been 3 if it weren't for a false start, and all of them were, he was really peppering the back corners of the end zone. This is a very encouraging practice for Sean Clifford. It wasn't perfect, but it was something to build upon. As for the try again another day players, Donovan Jennings, he hasn't been practicing for long, but there was another blown block for Jennings today, and it always seems to be that he just misses something in the interior. Something goes wrong, a run play is stopped because Jennings misses something. It's been kind of a trend as of late. Overall, kind of disappointing thus far from the UDFA. And then in terms of another try again another day, that's going to go to Luke Musgrave. Musgrave has not made highlight after highlight thus far in camp. Today, he had a touchdown. Jordan had him in the end zone. Musgrave was falling down, as Musgrave does, but also just dropped the ball. And it's not like it was some physical catch he had to make. It was there in his very large mitts. It just popped out and hit the ground. So before I get to more details, let's see what y'all got. Captain Kebbles, what's up? With so many tight ends, they probably just will slot one in when needed at fullback like some years. And that's exactly what I'm thinking. In fact, you and I have talked about that before, right? You don't need to keep around dedicated H-back when you've got Sims, Tyler Davis, A.J. Dillon, guys who can essentially take different portions of the responsibilities of a traditional H-back with guys that you're going to keep on the roster anyway. So I'm very much in lockstep with you there. Brandon the Ruiner, hope the Packers have a better season this year. It would be nice. Yeah, and by all accounts, they should, right? Still, ultimately, last year, 9-8, made the second round of the playoffs. We got to hope for progress, but by all accounts, they should. Caleb, what's up? Caleb saying, how is Jordan Love looking today? Overall, better. Like, things are just beginning to lock in for the offense. I will say he had probably the single best play of camp thus far today. There was one play, it was during red zone work. I'm sure I'll talk about it in a little bit, but it was basically like he takes the snap, pressure begins to come from the outside. He then steps forward and really has to juggle the pocket, eventually evades out, and finds a wide open Jaden Reed. We're talking about 18 yards away. Jaden Reed was wide open in the middle of the end zone. Someone missed him, and Love delivered it on the button. Love overall today looked as though he had a very strong day. Not incredible, not highlights all over the place, but this was a good day for Jordan Love, no doubt. Brandy, do you rotate positions to watch during practice? Yes and no. Sometimes I attempt to. Other times it's just made impossible by like what I can straight up see. Because I am in the fan portion of things. I'm not like over on the credentialed side. And sometimes players are just in the frickin' way. They're big. I always have a very good view of offensive line position drills. One-on-ones I always can really focus on when they're doing it for the trenches. And then when it gets to like red zone work, stuff like that, I try to take in the play on the whole, but I always try to write down, obviously, the passer, the receiver, or who was running it, and then who made the tackle. Beyond that, it gets very difficult to scope much more detail than that. Brandon, is Ronson getting better yet? I mean, yes and no. Like today in one-on-ones, I know he had a very physical catch. I can't recall off the top of my head who the corner was, but I know he did have one very contested physical catch today. And then also 2 days ago on Sunday, he was hit with a 50-yard shot he straight up beat Stokes in coverage, and Love delivered the ball. I would say it was probably 35 air yards down the field to Watson, who was streaking open just because he was naturally faster. So better kind of depends on what context you mean that in. Overall, though, Watson is having an as expected camp, I would say, thus far. David, I think Tucker Kraft is going to be the number one tight end. Musgrave is just so clumsy. It's kind of hard to disagree with that, at least from the angle of Musgrave being clumsy. Whether it's his feet, his hands, something is always clumsily going on for Luke Musgrave. I am inclined to agree with that. As for Kraft, like, I don't know as if I'd look at it so Kraft and Musgrave competing one over the other for who is tight end one. They fill different functions on the offense. Like, they really do different things. Musgrave, much more your vertical up the slot guy. Kraft, you're much more traditional inline, going to take on more blocking responsibilities. So I don't know as if I'd view them as 1 versus 2 so much as like 1A, 1B, because they really do different things. Caleb saying, and I see Romeo Dobbs is getting way better. Indeed, Dobbs has had a very, I would say out of all the wide receivers, has been by far the most consistent all throughout 7 days of camp. Today was just a very strong day, repeatedly beating Jair, making a touchdown catch in red zone. This was a very, very good day for Romeo Dobbs. And it was one of those days where just sitting watching, it was kind of like, oh yeah, it was the number one receiver last year. We probably shouldn't forget about him. It was that kind of feeling from him today. Captain Kebble, Stokes got his revenge today, though. Yeah, Stokes was kind of up and down today. He did get beat a few times. But then that ending, I know probably some of you have seen the clips, the illegal clips out there on Twitter, but Stokes coming up with the interception to end the day. And funny story about that. So they were going through red zone stuff, each, first team, second team, etc. They were all going through red zone. And then all of a sudden, it looked like practice was going to be done. Like they blew the horn, LaFleur started to yell, and then Jordan went over to him and pleaded, give me one more chance. Give me one more rep. well, when the $220 million man wants that, that's what they get. So then they all kind of line up, bring everybody together. And they did do another sequence just for the ones. And that is when Musgrave had his drop. There was a false start in there. That is when, ultimately Stokes got his interception. And then that is what truly ended a very, very warm practice. David saying Dobbs is going to get paid. I mean, of the two right now, I mean, like Watson still, I know Dobbs is the steady presence, the do no wrong, right? Watson's physical presence is still so hard to ignore. Like if he can put it all together, yeah, he's going to command a huge payday, right? But Dobbs, I look at him as your much more steady, reliable, will be weak wide receiver one when you need him to be. But I just don't know as if he's the type to absolutely break the bank. I think he stands a good shot to be retained. Brandon the Ruiner, how's the rookie running back going? Is he going to be better than Dylan? This version of Dylan? I don't know about that. Dylan has looked very good, very spry thus far in camp. As for Lloyd, this was his first real practice because he was out with a hip injury for the first 6. So, to be determined because we haven't seen him really at all today. Caleb, how the rookies looking today? On the whole, Bullard and Williams were on par with how they've been. They each had a couple of stops. There was one interesting set towards the end of red zone where Hafley actually called for a 3-safety set. He had all of McKinney, Bullard, and Williams on the field all at once. That was really nice to see. As for Cooper, on the whole, Cooper's like made players here or there. Same with Hopper. Nothing really standing out over the course of all 7 days, though. Just kind of rookie is at this point. And then Jordan Morgan. Morgan very much today was the number 1 right guard. Like he was the starting right guard today. In other days, he's because with Elton Jenkins getting some vet rest, Myers being out for a few days there. Like there's been a lot of Ryan and Morgan playing together when it left, when it right. Today, everyone was in. Morgan was the number 1 right guard. Sean Ryan was with the 2s. That kind of gives you an idea of where the Packers are thinking right now. And Morgan does okay. Today, he did get beat by Brooks on the interior, I believe twice off the top of my head. And that's a little discouraging to see, but also Carl Brooks he's doing some good work. Kevin Stokes having hands makes me very, very excited. He back. Stokes is looking like a very strong corner too. Granted, it's early, right? But he's looking good. This is the second day out of at least the last 3 where Stokes is really looking great. Brandy saying, have you seen the defense use some single high safety? If so, how did it look? Yes. So I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Have they employed single high? Yes, absolutely. How has it looked? I'm going to say that they used seemingly more of it in the earlier days of camp when the Packers when it was Clifford and they were completely and utterly unable to do anything at all. So was that a fair assessment of how the single high looked? Probably not. But ultimately, single high is very much a part of the defense. And whether it's McKinney being the one who's back there or the counterpart to McKinney, whoever it is on any given day, I'm going to say mostly Williams would be the one to head back when he's the number 1 with McKinney. I'm going to say just on the whole mixed results. I know that's kind of vague, but it's really where we are right now. Dave, what's up, Dave? Saying hip injuries are SOB as a former running back. Glad he's back at it. Yeah, it was good to see. Now, he didn't have any real work today. Certainly not highlight stuff. He got very few runs, but ultimately, yeah, good to see him healthy. Kevin, so is Wyatt with the 2s? Have never heard about him much. No, I wouldn't say he's firmly with the 2s. It's not like he just runs out there when Clifford and the 2 offense is in there. It's more like Wyatt is the number 3 defensive tackle. Think of it that way. He rotates in with Slayton. Slayton gets the first reps, and then Wyatt comes in there. It's not like Wyatt is exclusively with the depth strings, if that makes sense. And as for not hearing much about him, he did get stood up twice the other day. I think that was on Sunday by Jordan Morgan in their one-on-ones, the only time we've seen one-on-ones thus far. So he just hasn't done a lot yet. David, is the offensive line going to get settled before preseason games? Seems a little disjointed right now. It's been very disjointed. Not having Zach Tom there, really not helping the cause. But also Josh Myers missing 3 days. Jenkins having to kick into center didn't help. Clifford having to play quarterback for the first 4 days didn't help. That O-line quarterback relationship is very important from a timing standpoint. LaFleur even talked about that. So, I guess we've only seen a couple of days now with pads. This was day 3 with pads. Am I worried about the offensive line yet? No, I'm not worried. Borderline concerned? Yes, but there's plenty of time to fix it. I have faith that it will get fixed by preseason games. Brandon, you think Josh Jacobs is going to be better off in Green Bay than Las Vegas? Yeah. Yes. Like, even the Packers' offensive line right now is better than he ever had blocking for him in Vegas last year. He even said, there was some article, can't remember who wrote it. I wish I could give them credit, but it came out for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that detailed Jacobs last year in Vegas, and it was a very, very unhappy place. Jacobs even talking about wanting to be traded before the year even began. Like, he was not in a good place mentally or play-wise, and he had an offensive line that attempted to get him killed with regularity, or unalived if YouTube gives a crap about that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think he is going to be in a much, much better place this year. Yes. Caleb, any reps for the rookie Hopper yet? Yeah, he's had some nice run stops. He's just not playing a ton. Chad saying, seems like the defense has been vulnerable to crossing routes. Has that been where they've been in one high safety looks? Ooh. I can't say that confidently. I'm sure it's happened sometimes, but I can't say definitively that that's coming. I think it's more so just the stand of they're getting beat on crossers, because even if you recall the last year, the Packers offense is very, very good. Probably top 2 in the NFL, right next to San Francisco, in their ability to call well-timed crossing routes. They have good wide receivers who are able to get separation in crossing routes. I don't know as if I'd look at that as a real deficiency of the defense so much as that's one of the Packers' strengths. And at times in camp, they've laid into it, and it's worked. So, I just can't get as detailed to say that it's been against one high safety. Sorry, Chad. Kebbles, me and you thinking Jeff going to have head coaching interviews in 2 years is tracking. God, I hope this one works out. I can't help it, brother. When the defense is Jordan frustrated, I'm buying it. It was really cool to see Jordan go, give me one more. Give me one more rep set. Like, I want back in. That was really cool to see. And yeah, if the defense looks as good as it can be, Jeff's not going to be here for long. Dave saying Gary's looking scary this year, thinking after that ACL turned a switch. Yeah, his productivity died in the second half last year. And I think it's because he was trying to do too much coming off of that knee. Ultimately, though, like, Gary's looking very, very scary. The one thing I'm going to say, though, that I do want everyone to keep in mind, as you see repeated headline after headline after headline about Rashawn Gary looking absolutely terrifying in training camp, is Rashawn Gary almost exclusively to this point has been going against the right tackle. Who have the right tackles been thus far, John? It's been Andre Dillard and Kadeem Telford. Not exactly a hitter's row of legendary right tackles. So is Gary looking incredibly good? Yes. He's also going against the depth right tackles. So just bear that in mind. Chad, how has Myers looked solid and on point with snaps protection? Yeah, snaps have really been no problem at all. And in terms of protection, at this juncture, after only a couple days of pads, hard to say I've seen him do anything great, but there's also never been a time where I've written down Josh Myers saying, dude, blew it. So take that as encouragement. Brandy, what part of camp do you enjoy watching the most? I'll tell you, we've only gotten to see it once, but I love offensive line versus defensive line one-on-ones. Like, if you just want to think back throughout, like, yeah, 2-a-day is no longer a thing. The dog days of summer, even though it's hot as balls today, not really a thing anymore. But it just harkens back to, like, they were doing that drill when Lombardi was here. I love all of that feel, and it's just so pure at its like tenacity. So I love watching O-line versus D-line one-on-ones. Love it. The other thing that I like the most is probably just the closest to game simulation you can get is when they do a true, like, 2-minute drill scenario. Love seeing those. Like today, they did I'll get to it when I do the stream of plays, but like they did 22 seconds on the clock. He got the ball at the 22, no timeouts. It's 3rd down and 8. Jordan, what are you going to do? And then he marches down the field and throws a pick like he did today. So, I love to see the game simulations. Kebble's time is so critical. The O-line was so different in that final drive against San Francisco when he was out. 1,000%. Yes. Caleb, who do you think is most improved from last year? Any position? Ooh, on the whole. Overall position, got to give that to safety. Because even last year, like, the safeties were like, I don't want to make it sound this harsh, but there is some truth in it. Like, if the safeties, you just wanted competency from the safeties last year. You weren't looking at them and making interceptions, etc. It was just like, let's not get blown, right? This year, you're looking at the safeties going, oh, they stopped a run. Oh, they got involved in that one. Oh, they ran up to the line. Like, all of a sudden, safeties is a lot more encouraging. Kevin Kebble's Matt LaFleur is the king of crossing routes, and crossers are the counter to Jeff's scheme. Justice M said there's a difference whether it's Flowers if they can get to the QB before the cross. Love that, Kebbles. Yes, because it points out two things. What is one of the weaknesses of man coverage? Really effectively run crossers, right? We all can acknowledge that. It's simple logic, really. What is LaFleur better at dialing up than damn near anyone? Crossing routes. Yeah, it's true. Hafley will earn his stripes defending the crosser. Brandon, did Jordan Love get his new contract yet? Hope he gets 218. Yeah, Brandon, that was really, really big news. Yeah, go look that up. He's locked in. David, I appreciate your honest opinions. It's what I'm here for, David. Kevin Kebbell, stay hydrated and stay great, boss. Hope the allergic to the sun thing isn't messing you up too much. Thanks for doing these. Of course, man. Today was not terrible, to be completely frank. Just very, very warm. Not a ton of sun. Also, if you happen to be at training camp, getting in decently with Packers security has its perks. They allowed me to bring in a full-on patio umbrella today. So if you're at Packers training camp at all, and it's going to be here all 3 days, I don't care. It's sunny as all get out. If you happen to see a large tan patio umbrella set up along the back row, that's me. Dave, do we see more of Clark in a wide this year like he blew up Darisaw last year? Probably not. Just because with the natural switch from 4-3, you can actually expect Clark to be in a little bit more as opposed to like in a 3-4 traditional set. At times he would go outside against the tackle or play directly over the tackle. 4-3 playing more of a true DT. No, he's going to be inside. They'll still mix it up. Don't get me wrong. But on the whole, no, probably not. Caleb, when's the next training camp? Tomorrow. And I'll be live then again too as well. All right, so just want to get to a few details here. I know you're all anxiously waiting for the kicking details. Yes, Carlson and Joseph are the only two kickers, as I mentioned earlier. James Toner, pour one out for your boy from Michigan because he gone. So Carlson and Joseph are the left, two kickers left. Carlson ultimately on the day went 5 of 6. He hit from 34, 39, 48, 42, 54. He missed from 41. He hit the crossbar. Greg Joseph hit all 6 of his today, 34, 39, 48, 41, 54, and 42. So ultimately, Greg Joseph moves one ahead in the kicking battle. Still very much toe-to-toe between those two. But now, technically, if you're keeping track through all 7 days, Joseph is indeed one ahead. David saying, if you watch the Packers in the passing game, LaFleur is a mastermind at scheming players open. 1,000%, David. Yes, agree. Brandy, newer players in the secondary grabbing a bunch. In terms of like what might be penalized, like that kind of grabbing, right? Not that I've seen that would be problematic, that I'd be worried about like, yeah, Brooke, you cannot do that. I wouldn't say so. I think Hafley overall, thus far, has done a very nice job of ensuring that the defense can be ultra aggressive without, at least to the naked eye, watching everything simultaneously, looking like over aggressive to the point of stupidity or undisciplined where it's going to get flagged. It's been a very nice change to see really, really clean aggression. Now, as the refs start calling more, because we are at the point of camp where refs are very much in teaching mode, they're purposefully not calling every single flag in 2 minutes, then maybe we'll see that change a little bit. But at this point, it hasn't really been concerning. Dave saying Bowden is back. Yes, one of 3 players signed today. Bowden is back. Orzik has some competition now. Good. Kevin Kebbell saying Packers treating my guy right. Good. You earned it, man. Been a blessing for the fandom. Happy for you, as you put it. Finally committed to saying, I have a voice and I'd like to share it. Thank you, Kevin Kebbell. Means a lot. But yeah, I was incredibly fortunate. Like I came in with this like 6-foot umbrella and I just kind of looked at them and I'm like, eh? And they're like, sure. And then even the head of security like came over and had a discussion about the guest services person. Shout out Will in my section about like, are we gonna allow? Will's like, oh yeah, they're shading everybody. They're being very conscientious. Shout out to Caden, by the way, on TikTok. I sit next to him every day. So like we got it good. We got that patio umbrella. All right, so I want to give you the stream of plays before we go. I like to do this every day just to give you a real feel as to what's going on. By the way, Grant Dubose had a 4th day in a row having a really nice catch. I just feel that that's noteworthy. It was a toe tapping catch at the back of the end zone. It was very, very good. Beyond that, though, also just some other lineup notes here. Malik Heath got a bunch of snaps with the ones in the red zone. Really good to see. It's not that characteristic. It felt noteworthy, but yeah, I would say a good 4 or 5 snaps in a row where he's with the ones in the red zone. And then Clifford with his 3 touchdowns in the red zone. Really, really solid work there. Oh, yeah. If you want to know the exact play-for-play sequence, and when Jordan did go up to Matt and say, I want one more, and then they gave him one more, here's the exact play sequence. They were down 7, 22 seconds left on the clock, ball on the 18, no timeouts. It was first down, Love to Wicks. Wicks is doubled by Stokes and Nixon pass breakup basically for each of them because that ball had absolutely no prayer. Love was just living on a prayer there. Second down, Love to Musgrave. Musgrave was streaking open, losing footing, dropped ball. Yeah, Musgrave. Third down, Love to Watson, end zone. Stokes got inside, jumped the route, interception. Notable over all these plays, 3 safeties on field, X, Williams, and Bullard. Then just a stream of plays from 11 on 11s. The very first play today, this was not a theme, it was a thing. Very first play of the day on 11-11s. Bad handoff to Dylan from Clifford. Anthony Johnson Jr. just kind of took it. Like it was not a great snap, and then Clifford kind of juggled it, handed it off to Dylan, who kind of juggled it. Anthony Johnson Jr. came running up the middle and just went mine and plucked it and went. That was the very first play of the day. Other plays that occurred. Let's see, overthrow to Melton, incomplete from Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford to Musgrave, 8-yard sideline. Davis was in it, H-back there. Jacobs up the middle, handoff from Love, 2 moves, 10-yard gain. Jacobs up to the left side, 2 3-yard gain brought down by Hopper. Play action screen to Dyler Davis, overthrown by Love, incomplete. Check down from Hart to A.J. Dillon. It was stopped right away by Javon Bullard. Love rolling out to Dobbs, wide open, 30-yard gain. Then when the threes came in, it was Pratt to a play action play to Starkey. This is a really, really nice play. Beautiful throw and catch against the coverage, 15-yard gain. Then Emmanuel Wilson getting a carry, immediate traffic, just death and chaos everywhere. Gate of only 2 up the middle. Ditto for Merriweather. This is where Donovan Jennings just straight up missed his block. Merriweather brought down immediately. Then Eason to Jarvian Howard for a handoff 10 yards up the middle. Howard has had a few nice carries where he's really gotten to avoid contact. All right, Kevin Moore here. Ja predicted the Packers hoist a Lombardi on my birthday, February 9th. I mean, it reads itself. Ja, he wears those glasses. He dabbles in what is probably a couple chemicals, pure speculation. I think we all know Ja, and says these things. It's a visionary. Caleb, do you think Grant Dubose might get reps this year in the offense? I still think, in spite of Dubose having a nice 4 days in a row at camp, I still think it's a really tall order to make the roster. Because realistically, just look at the wide receivers. You've got Dobbs, Wicks, Reed, Watson. Okay, there's 4 locks, right? Then you've also got Melton, who's damn near a lock. That's your 5. And then you've got Heath, who still is getting snaps at the 1 in red zone, who's gotten multiple compliments from Matt LaFleur this offseason. Did I do that? All right. Anyway, but Nick has gotten multiple red zone snaps with the 1s, multiple compliments from LaFleur this offseason. That's 6. Are they going to keep 7 wide receivers? Is it going to be Dubose? I don't know. I'm very, very skeptical that they keep 7. Dubose feels like a lock for the practice squad at the very least, though. Daves, I think we're going to be trading a wide receiver with the depth we have. Maybe. It's possible, but this happens every camp, right? Where we all think like we've got such depth, but every team thinks that they have incredible depth right now. Maybe you've also be on the lookout for a Royce Newman trade, because not that the Packers have really depth on the interior in the offensive line, but that's a guy who started his entire rookie year. He had almost 1,100 snaps at guard his rookie season, and then, yeah, it's all been downhill. But if some team hopes or wants a small little piece of that great Packers offensive line that's been around, maybe. David, Dubose and Heath are sleepers for sure. Yeah, I think Heath, it's going to be a really good, if it's kind of becoming a battle, I still think Heath's got it. Captain Kebbels, EJ Snyder, a Bears fandom, legit was distraught. Green Bay got Dubose. Yeah, I blocked EJ a long time ago. I'll take the guy on my team anytime. Fan for Rashid Walker and Bullard. I see a pattern. Certified hater in EJ. Brandy saying Van Ness getting second tape reps, has a kick inside. Not really that I've seen. They haven't done, at least not with any type of frequency. They haven't done tremendously exotic things on the defensive side of the ball as of yet. Most of the time when we've seen LVN, it's been in a traditional 4-3 defensive lineman over the tackle or outside of the tackle. And in terms of where he's getting those reps, yeah, it's like he's the number 1 DE for the 2s. It's been kind of rare that I see him get real action against J-Love in the 1s. Kevin Kebbels, do they tack running backs to the round in practice or just until momentum stops in practice, obviously? It's still basically where momentum stops. Is there the occasional tackle? Yes, but that more so happens like you might have seen the other day where Nixon just flat out leveled A.J. Dillon the other day. It's more like when a player comes screaming in. It's like they're allowed to tackle, but if progress has ceased, they're not going to make anyone bring anybody to the ground. Get what I kind of mean there? And that happens 90% of plays. Kevin Kevels, I'd rather have empty space versus Newman would hold up longer. Look, here's what I'm saying. Pretty clearly from positional drills, there's the first offensive line, right? Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Jordan Morgan, Zach Tom. Like in position drills, because Tom's still doing position drills. That's the ones. They're the first guys up. They leave. The twos come in. The two line almost exclusively has been Andre Dillard at left tackle, Royce Newman at left guard, Jacob Monk at center, and then right guard being Sean Ryan, right tackle being Kadeem Telford, with some Caleb Jones mixing in at left tackle, Luke Tenuta at right tackle. Royce Newman is very much a part of the twos on the offensive line for the interior. I'm saying this not because I support this kind of behavior from Green Bay, but as a piece of information, because we might need to prepare ourselves. Dave saying, wouldn't surprise me trading an OL, Van Roten, Van Lanen. Yeah. Like Van Lanen was traded years ago. It wouldn't shock me, but they need to figure out their depth there first for sure. David, that's what I can see. Can the defense actually tackle? It's just a little early in camp to get a super good feel for that. What I can tell you is I've been covering all offseason is from a statistical standpoint, they should be a much better tackling unit this year than they ever were last year, especially from the safety position. It's very hard to understate the impact that bringing in someone like Xavier McKinney, who gets only 6 missed tackles a year, replacing someone like a Darnell Savage, who gets somewhere between 14 and 20. It's very difficult to understate the impact that will feel like on the defense. So it's almost like by default, because of who they added, we're going to get better tackling. So we should. It's just a little early to judge it for real. Miserable Goat, Packers or nothing. Amen. Brandy, going to be hard to get to a 53 with this depth, huh? Yeah, and it's a beautiful problem to have, right? I am very eager. I was thinking about that yesterday. I know next week, like when we get this reduction from like 6 days a week of camp to only 2 or 3 days a week of camp, that starts next week and they really taper it down. I'll put out a 53 on one of those first available days. And I was thinking today about like, how's that going to look? I will say though, a good like 47-ish of the spots are like locked. However, spots 48 through 53 are like, it could go to any one of 3 dudes for every one of them. Like, so that's going to be interesting. Kevin Kebbles, thank you for taking all my questions, brother. Helps me feel like I was at practice. Thanks for all you do again. Of course, Kebbles. Hey, you know what? Thank you for being here every single day, Kebbles. I love it. Brandy, meaning making cuts to folks that should be on the roster. Yeah, 1,000%. It also means that the Packers should, in theory, have a nice deep practice squad that can jump in and actually help when the inevitable injuries do occur. Should be very promising. Big Al, any surprising player in camp so far? You know, I was thinking about this today. I feel like even by this point last year, there were guys like popping off. Like Bo Melton was just making catch after catch every single day. Like there were guys that were not expected that were doing great work. This year, it's like we're 7 days in and everything is much more about par for the course. And what I mean in that is like, well, your stars are making the occasional play. The rookies are making these like highlight splashes, but do very much look like rookies sometimes too, where they just straight up like lost. Or like Kalen King does a drill, but runs the wrong way. We've seen that like twice so far at camp. And then Keyshawn Nixon goes, hey, come here. And then like talks him up a little bit. Or the O-lineman, same thing with Jordan Morgan and Elton Jenkins going, buddy. Like you see that kind of thing out of the rookies regularly as well. So it's like 7 days in, and it's hard to say. It's almost like Grant Dubose. Maybe Julian Hicks has had a couple nice catches. But everything else feels kind of right where it should. And there's no one that's like, dang, did not expect that from them. I will say, though, some of the run stopping from the defense, that has been a very pleasant surprise, a somewhat unexpected development. And the big players there really have been McDuffie, occasionally Eric Wilson, and Keyshawn Nixon. That has been a very welcome development. David saying, I think the starting goal for this team should be to win the division first. Yeah, Detroit's going to be a tall order, but I think that's a very realistic, should be a good starting place, for sure. Captain Kebble's a guy I trusted to point it out. Yeah, safeties that tackle well matters even more than coverage. Otherwise, the backers and linemen are having to do twice the workload. Packers fans, yeah, we could tell. Well, and even when they signed Jonathan Owens pre-last year, remember, Owens was a top 15 tackling safety in the NFL per PFF's tracking when they signed him last year. And then he forgot how to tackle in Green Bay. So you got to hope the same thing's not going to happen McKinney, but it certainly shouldn't. He's got a much longer track record of not sucking at tackling. But it's like, by default, it should get better. And we just have to cross our fingers on that one. Knock on wooden patio tables. Dave, seems like the run defense has been attacking. Yes, it has. Very much so. I even pointed out the other day, there are two plays that just straight up have not worked for the Packer offense. Like, regardless of what they've been called, how often they've been called, whatever, both of them have like a 90% fail rate thus far in camp. And that would be halfback tosses and screens. Neither one has worked for crap. I think there's been, off the top of my head, 2 tosses that have actually worked. Screens have yet to see a screen that's really been successful. The defense is stepping up and suffocating these things much more effectively than we've seen before. It's promising, right? Let's just not get ahead of ourselves and be like, it's fixed, because it might not be. It's just promising at this juncture, and certainly different from what we've seen in the past, right? All right, everybody. I think I covered all of the vital details. One other thing that I like to give you, kick returner, punt returner snaps, because, hey, you want some like inside intel on like who's a sneaky bet to make the 53 regardless of how they're doing on offense or defense. Look at who is playing like protector roles in the new kickoff scheme, who's protecting on punt unit. Some of that special teams info is where you could really get accurate on trying to guess some 53s, right? Well, kick returner, punt returner snaps, they really only did kick return work today. Returning, getting some snaps there was Reed, Nixon, Melton, Jacobs, and Touring. As for the protectors were almost exclusively A.J. Dillon and Corey Ballantyne. No one else really did it. A little bit of inside info for you there. David saying Packers haven't been a good screenplay in years. Yeah, it's kind of true, actually. And it's really disappointing. I mean, the team that used to be coached by Mike Holmgren now cannot run a screen to save its life. It's kind of disappointing. Kevin Keppel saying something in the water in Green Bay makes QB special and safeties get brain rot. McKinley is only allowed to consume Gatorade. Love it. Only pre-bottled stuff for Xavier McKinney. We have to keep him good. I'm down with that. All right, everybody. Oh, here we go. Big Al. What do you think the QB2 battle of Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt? Talked about this a bit on Sunday. Now, granted, Clifford was much better today. Not perfect, but better. And any progress is progress we will take from Sean Clifford at this juncture, especially those 3 red zone touchdowns that I talked about earlier. I mean, each one was a beautiful throw to the back of the end zone. And it was all like tiptoe catches from the receivers getting their feet in. It was really gorgeous stuff from Clifford. 3 really nice plays there. Probably his best 3 plays of camp. So thus far, the big observation is today not included. Clifford has looked so unbelievably panicky in the pocket. Everything in disarray. The man gets the ball and just has to start running. It's just not in time. It's not controlled. It's been rough in that way. And that's been the leading factor in his downfall. Pratt has looked like a 7th-round rookie, meaning in some ways he's very much in control of the offense, but sometimes his decision-making leaves a little something to be desired. Sometimes his throws are just not where you'd want them to be. Other times, as I've talked about, when they drafted him, I said, Michael Pratt is a very good thrower of the football. He also has been in the back half of time to throw in college basically every year. His great downfall as a quarterback is the man takes forever to throw the football. And yes, that has been everything with him is it's in control. He never looks panicky. He stands into pressure. But it takes time for him to throw the ball. It looks like that is carried right over from Cobb. And he's a 7th-round rookie. He's not going to refine his game in like 2 weeks. So it's to be expected. But it's just still there. So I would say this, okay? The Packers hung on to a 4th quarterback today. They cut 3 dudes off the roster. One of them wasn't a quarterback. They hung on to Jacob Eason for a reason. I think the Packers are not satisfied with what they've seen thus far, at least, from their depth of quarterback play. take that for what it's worth. Kevin Kibbles saying, go Pack, go. Everyone like the video. Yes! Thank you, Kevin Kibbles. But yeah, please, if you haven't subscribed, it helps. And by the way, we still have a Patreon. So if you want to look that up, support what I do here every day, driving to Green Bay every day, being here for you, just take a look at the Patreon. If you got a few shekels, consider joining. That's my plug. I hate freaking plugging it. I hate selling myself. But hey, there it is. David, Clifford is a baller. Don't count him out. I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, last year, remember, he was the gunslinger last year. Remember, little baby Brett running around out there. I'm very eager to see him in a preseason game. All I can do is report on what I've seen thus far, which is a very panicky quarterback who makes the occasional good throw. But today was progress, and progress we will take. All right, everybody, I better cut it off there. Thank you so much for joining me. Interaction today was fantastic. Really appreciate everybody being here. It is time for me, though, to go. So thanks, everybody, for being here. It's been a lot of fun. I will see you tomorrow following tomorrow's practice. Thursday, though, looks a little iffy. They're calling for a thunderstorm right around practice time, so there may not be open practice on Thursday. But I'll keep you updated as the week goes on. Thanks so much for being here. And as always, go Pack, go.